Hello and welcome to Good or Bad. So I was recently put onto this movie, and I've been led to believe it's one of the worst movies ever made. And I have seen some bad movies, so how painful can this really be? After Last Season was directed by Mark Regent and released in 2009. So here we go! It's like the opening titles of Alien, just 1,000 times worse. I mean, seriously, how much effort went into that?
I was reading your form and you've indicated that you have Parkinson's disease.
The disease is in its beginning stage. The signs of the disease are minimal.
Okay, so already the acting is bad, but hey, I've enjoyed films with bad acting before. So here we have a doctor and a patient, if you couldn't already guess. But what kind of medical examination room looks like this? Even the MRI scanner looks like a cardboard prop with some paper glued to it. Why does it keep stopping and starting? Are they really that desperate to pad this film out? Alright, so now we are treated to an entire scene of this guy in an MRI scanner, where the movie just keeps cutting to random walls. And I'd just like to point out that MRI scanners are a lot louder than this. But to be fair, in real life they also don't look like cardboard props. They sound like the sound effects from an early access survival game.
The doctor will examine the images and talk to you.
And usually that would take about 4 to 5 hours sat in a waiting room, which is more fun than this. Right, so moving on to the next scene. There is a doctor and 2 neurology students who are being asked questions about MRI scanners.
The scanner gives an internal picture of a specific tissue. In some cases, CAT scans or X-rays can be used instead of the MRI.
Is this movie going to be this boring all the way through? Oh, another person. She's on the phone and is telling us that she has a good view of downtown from her apartment.
I have a view of downtown through my windows.
Well, as fascinating as this is, why would she just be stood in a hallway on the phone? Also, bloody hell, movie. Set up your lighting better than that. Can you see that shadow? What am I saying? Can you see it? People from space would be able to see it. Oh, another guy. I wonder what's going on with him.
I have some of the MRIs.
Why would you just show him sat there and then just could have... What the hell? So Dr. Rigid here is showing them MRI scans and telling the 2 students that some patients hear voices.
Some hear voices that seem to be coming from across the street.
Oh, it's this guy again. Oh, he's getting up. Strap yourself in, this could be a bumpy ride. Would you stop cutting away from every scene before anything happens? Just commit to a scene. Yeah, blah blah blah, voices, MRI scans, very fascinating. But what did this guy see? What made him get up? This movie has terrible editing. Right, so I take it this movie isn't going to stop cutting away from every single goddamn scene. But now we get to play Spot the Difference. Well, this one's bigger than that one, and there's more grey in this bit than there is... How far into this movie are we? 8 minutes, 30 seconds. So there's more MRI talk. Yay. And then we cut back to this guy who picks up the phone this time. Exhilarating stuff, I know. And he wants to get through to a library. And then we cut back to more MRI bollocks. So we've established this movie is slow and agonising, so let's speed through it a little more, shall we? After cutting to various scenes, we find out that this guy is called Ed, and he is played by Kyle Patrick Darling. He dies and no longer has to have anything to do with this movie. You lucky bastard. And random woman who was talking on the phone earlier finds his body. I've seen more realistic dead body imagery when somebody trips up holding a bottle of ketchup. So someone has been murdered, which means the movie has done something that is vaguely interesting. So the movie then cuts to a completely different scene where we see two women talking about nothing.
Wow, you did some nice radio clock. When did you get it?
Last week, yeah. The buttons on my old one weren't working anymore, so.
Right, this movie has a habit of being all over the place, but these two people are our main characters. They are the two neurology students that were being talked to death about MRIs at the start of the film. They are called Sarah Austin and Matthew Andrews. Sarah is played by Peggy McClellan, and Matthew is played by Jason Koulas. So what the movie is doing a horrible job of explaining is what the movie is actually about. Which is that these two neurology students are undertaking a telepathy experiment where they visualise past murders. God knows what everything before this, beyond Ed being found dead, had to do with the story though. Yes, there was an excessive amount of talk about dorm rooms. But we don't get to see this groundbreaking telepathy experiment just yet, as all they are doing right now is scheduling a date to undertake the experiment. Does this movie not understand the concept of keeping your audience engaged? We're only 19 minutes in and I feel like I've been watching this for hours. Sarah goes to brain class, but let's just skip that, shall we? I really haven't got the energy left in me for more pointless scenes. Too bad I'm watching this movie then, isn't it? So as we look at more random objects and walls, we see that the brain class teacher has noticed a mug falling on its own. Although we didn't actually get to see it happen because everything happens off screen in this movie. Is it because we're only actually allowed to see walls or something? So Dr. Rigid and brain class teacher seem to be married. Maybe, possibly, I don't really know, to be honest. Marriage is just a guess, really. The acting is so stale, it could be anything. And the set design is so bland I can't even tell if they are at home or in their place of work. But they are definitely somewhere. And we find out that they knew Ed, who was a student, I think, or a patient maybe? And they are talking about some group with other people in it. Okay, I don't really know what's going on in this movie. It's not easy to follow, okay? But look, there's a ceiling fan there. Love a ceiling fan?
Yeah, all the nerves are still healing. The next couple of weeks, you should be able to regain normal movement of the arm.
Who needs to watch a show like House when you've got this? I wonder what Matthew's up to.
Computer room on the first floor is being moved to the second. I went to print some documents and a technician said the printers had been moved.
Let's just fast forward through all of this. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is great. I should watch all bad movies like this. Right, so the experiment.
It's cold out.
No! The experiment! I've had enough of this drivel.
So, these are the chips?
The experiment involves some neural chips. The two chips basically allow a flow of information from one person to the other. So one person answers various questions and the person asking the questions will be able to see what's going on in the other person's mind as they answer them. And on its own this is quite interesting, but unfortunately it's happening in after last season, so it's brain-damagingly boring. The experiment begins a mere 32 minutes into the movie. Oh, what is this? Yeah, all the telepathy scenes are crummy models floating around 3D space in some 3D editing software.
Wow. That was a surprise.
Well, I can't disagree with you there. I didn't see this level of laziness coming. And I'd say lazy because most of these shapes are pre-built into various software, so they probably didn't even have to make them. These telepathy scenes continue, and as they do, the audience proceeds with smashing their heads into a wall, so they can kill off their remaining brain cells before this movie gets to them. It's a mercy killing, it really is. Okay, so no matter what she tries to picture, the 3D modelers continue to create people-like things, until we see what it's all building up to. A 3D model slowly murdering another 3D model. Which is where the whole telepathy to visualise a murder comes into it. And this takes 30 fucking minutes. But don't worry, it wasn't all shapes floating around the screen for that 30 minutes. We do see some other stuff as well, like a camera that's making its way through the Prorolis Corporation building, which is where everything is set. And I suppose this camera is the first-person view of the murderer coming to get them. And we also see a random guy talking to someone that's on the other side of the door.
Angie, it looks like someone left a book in the living room. Is it yours?
Or I don't know, maybe he's crazy. Maybe he's talking to maybe he watched this movie and it's driven him so batshit insane that he's actually talking to a door, because I may be doing that soon. So as the camera gets ever closer to them, the 3D software sequences warn them that something is coming. Holy crap! This movie has an actual person holding an actual knife in it. Maybe we're gonna get some good old-fashioned slasher movie fun. Yeah, that's gonna happen. They hear a noise and stare for a bit while the door opens.
Who's there?
Wow, that acting. I genuinely believe he's reading from a script. But nobody comes in, then things start moving around by themselves. In fact, things have been moving around by themselves off screen all throughout this movie, like Brain Class Teacher's mug or Random Guy's book. I wonder what it's all building up to. They get attacked by an invisible force, which involves one bad CGI effect, and by that I don't mean the others were good, I mean there was one. It was the only one. And some stuff moves around as well. And I have to hand it to this movie, it actually does a pretty decent job of making the objects look like they're moving on their own. I've seen it done far worse in other movies. So at least this movie did that well, but that's like the only thing. And I know this still sucks, like it really, really sucks, but at least stuff is happening that we can actually laugh at now, rather than people sat around talking about MRIs and dorm rooms.
The chair! The chair next to the wall!
Matt? Matt?
What?
Are you okay?
I was having a terrible dream.
It was a dream. It was a goddamn dream. The movie actually does something which involves people getting up and moving around, and it was a fucking dream? Are you kidding me? And it wasn't even just the invisible attack that was a dream. It was the whole mind-reading chips part of the movie that was a dream. Or at least I think so, because when he explains his dream, he said that they had those mind-reading chips. But then he says, let's finish the exercise. But then she says, sorry, she is late, so I assume that means she is only just getting there for the experiment. In which case, why say let's finish the exercise? And if it was all a dream, and by the way this movie is clearly stating that it was, that means that an entire third of this movie didn't actually happen. So I suffered for nothing! But why does he have a piece of paper saying this? Are these things being pitched as some future technology that he then dreamt of? But what I don't get most of all is, why not just have them be in the movie properly? It doesn't have to be realistic. In fact, your synopsis says it's about a telepathy experiment, not a man dreaming about a telepathy experiment. Alright, so let's continue with this experiment that they may or may not only just be starting.
Okay, so I've written down 20 questions.
Oh, for the love of fuck.
Okay, first question. If you could choose between a truck, a sedan, or a sports car, which car would you choose and why?
I'll choose a sedan.
Okay. Is there any particular reason why you'd choose a sedan?
I don't need to move much of my stuff around. I don't know. Just more convenient for me to have a sedan.
Okay. You can decorate your room any which way you choose. What objects would you put in your room?
Let's just skip this bit, shall we? They hear a noise outside and go to investigate.
I was trying to get into the lab. There are 6 digits to the access code. Now what are the last digits to the access code?
Well, at least something is happening again. This guy wants access to the lab, and he is killing people to get access. But he gets KO'd by a chair. So I see things are still moving by themselves then. We discover that this force that is moving things around is in fact a ghost. Yeah, there are ghosts in this movie now, and this ghost speaks. The ghost tells them that they are the only 2 people who can hear him talk, and he explains how he's able to move objects.
I'm having a difficult time moving that chair.
It's okay, Mr. Ghost. We all have performance issues now and then. I mean, I don't, obviously. Let's just move on, shall we? Right, so this ghost reveals that he was stabbed to death. But no, it's not Ed, or the guy that was in the hallway. It's some guy called Craig, who hasn't been in this movie. But yes, point is, ghosts are in this movie, and the killer has been subdued. The company's security turns up, who also works for the FBI. If this is an FBI guy, why did it show us a paroleless security car? But anyway, the killer turns out to be a former employee of the Paroleless Corporation, named Eric Nelson, who was hired to steal some research data but got beaten up by the ghost before he could do it. And all the other victims, and by that I mean the people that Eric killed, not the audience watching, were all apparently working on this research project.
They were working on the same research project.
So do you have any other
Wait, no, movie! Go back! Go back to the security company / FBI guy who was explaining things! Why have you gone to another scene? I hate it when you do that. I really do. After this thrilling doctor-patient scene, we see Matthew talking on the phone about the killer being apprehended.
Yeah, apparently he may have committed crimes in other states.
Yes. This Matthew character really does convey a great sense of disinterest, doesn't he? Then he finds a coat and starts talking to Craig the ghost, but the ghost doesn't really want to talk, so let's move on to another scene.
My husband spotted a coyote near that tree. It stood there for several seconds, then went away.
I'm so glad you told me this, movie. I had no idea. I had no idea there was a fucking coyote stood over there at one point in time and then it just moved up.
Did you see the new shopping plaza? Yeah. I stopped at a restaurant inside the plaza to get some lunch.
Literally nothing these two are saying right now has any relevance to anything that has happened in any point of this movie.
I live in a building near the subway station.
Oh. A wall used to divide this room into 2 smaller rooms. We knocked down the wall.
You've turned this into a really neat room.
We repaired the walls. Then John and I painted them.
Thank God it's nearly over. So they keep talking about utter irrelevance until they start looking at old photographs, one of them being of Craig, the ghost from earlier. Yeah, I said it before that I didn't think he was in this movie at all, because I didn't recognise his voice or his name from any point in the movie, but now I've seen his face, I still don't think he's been in the movie.
We have a room next to the living room.
Oh, it's over. It's over. Oh, it's over. But what the hell do I say about this one? It was poorly acted, poorly edited, poorly filmed, just poorly everything. My biggest problem with this film was it was boring. It was incredibly boring. I mean, come on, part of it was just watching shapes float around the screen. I could get a screensaver to do that, and that would be more interesting. The fact that we spend so much time with these shapes floating around our screen makes me think, was somebody learning a 3D modelling software and they were recording all of their creations and then someone dared them to make a film around them? And the other major thing you notice about this film is how disjointed it feels. this film is incredibly difficult to follow, the way it just cuts all over the place and inserts random dialogue into the movie that has nothing to do with what is going on, which makes some scenes feel like they have zero connection to the story of the movie. And I know there are other movies out there that do this, but by the end they pull it into focus and give you a big reveal. But here it just feels random and badly written. Maybe there are some connections in this movie that I'm not seeing, and maybe they do help it make more sense, but honestly, I just don't feel like it's worth trying to work them out. Another thing I just want to mention is the audio. It is shockingly bad. Like, you can hear traffic and planes at certain points. I mean, even I stopped for them.
I put in a switch, let me dim the lights. I'm bringing 2 metallic floor lamps.
So let's talk about this ghost reveal. It changed nothing in the story. There was a killer that was attacking Matthew and Sarah, and all the ghost did was knock the killer out and have a conversation with them. After that, the ghost does nothing. I mean, yes, there was that scene afterwards with Matthew trying to talk to Craig the ghost, but there was no response. The ghost aspect of the movie might as well not be there. Just have someone else knock out Eric. Hell, it would have given them an excuse to film a fight scene, although that would require some effort, wouldn't it? And speaking of Eric, what was he after? We know he wanted to steal something from the lab, but what was it? And also, who sent him to steal it? Who does he work for now? The movie never explains this. Well, I don't know anything about who he was working for, but we did see that piece of paper about the neural chip. Was that what he wanted? Was there an actual prototype in the lab? And was this theoretical prototype the same as Matthew's dream version? So this movie is bad. In fact, it's beyond bad. It is easily the worst movie I have ever seen. And I can't help but think, was that deliberate? Because remember a certain 2003 worst movie ever made candidate? Yeah, that's right, The Room. Which many call one of the worst movies of all time, but something happened because of that. It became a cult classic. And I believe that there are even showings of it today at various conventions and movie clubs around the world. So perhaps seeing the success and infamy that movie generated, because hey, even bad press is good press, right? Well, sort of. But anyway, yes, after seeing what happened with The Room, perhaps they wanted to create a movie so bad that it would follow down the same path. Therefore we got After Last Season. Of course, that is only a theory, but what is not a theory is that this movie is a technical mess, which I didn't enjoy in the slightest. So thank you, Spartan DL77, for introducing me to this. But I'm not done yet. Oh no, I have one last thing I want to talk about. The budget. Oh yes, apparently this movie had a budget of $5 million, which I don't believe for a second. I mean, just look at it. How could this possibly come from $5 million unless they were incredibly ripped off? So there we have it. Horrible everything. I mean, just look at that. You can clearly see they added in that text afterwards. And the last thing I will say about After Last Season, even the name doesn't make sense, is that while it may be bad, it is in fact so bad that it is actually fucking unbearable to watch. You have been watching Good or Bad, and I'll see you next time. But what I won't ever be seeing again is this movie.